Hello. You're watching and listening to Loose Gadgies. I don't know where that came from. I don't know why I started it like that.
Left field.
Could be slightly offensive to the ears. And today we're talking about fear, anxiety, relation between the two. That you understand that these things are different and perhaps one drives the other. So, cracking on, Mark. What's the crack?
The crack is
Broken down bus.
Well, I'll not go into that.
Broken down bus, wasn't it?
Broken down bus this morning. Yeah. My bus broke down, but it's it's one of the, what do they call it, occupational hazards. And but yeah, it's interesting because I was thinking about the subject of fear and anxiety, and I think the first thing to say is whatever it means to me does not mean the same to you, Simon, does it?
Do you know? Aye. I know what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, because if I said to my anxiety is on a scale of 1 to 10 today is a 5. That has no bearing on your scale, does it? None.
Oh, no, there are many neurological factors for me that I always have to take into consideration. But on a normal day, no, I even the level of anxiety you might go to, your maximum might be entirely different to mine, and the way that looks and affects you could be completely different.
So when I hope I never do this, but when you say to me, it's not been a great week, and I go, I know how you feel. No, I don't.
Yeah, it's one of them token thingies, isn't it? Like, rather than just saying,
Yeah,
what's up like? So I'd prefer to ask, so what's up? Rather than say, I know how you feel.
Yeah, great intro, because what I'm going to say is, because I'm a bit of a narcissist, is when you tell me I've had a bad week and you go, yeah, I've not been feeling my best, I'm going to say, I know exactly how you feel. Back in 1874, when I had a bout of diarrhea, I felt exactly the same. Even worse. And that, you listen to people's conversations when they talk about having the latest cold or the latest flu, and try and pick up those people. I know exactly how you feel, and I had it.
All of a sudden, you're like, well, I was saying that I felt bad, but now I know all of their symptoms and how long it's been on for. I know about their Auntie Mavis; she's had it. I know how our dad had it. So I'm sure my dog was sneezing. This all started out with you asking me how I was feeling, me telling you I had the flu. Now I know all about your flu. I've said one thing.
You know what it is, Simon?
What?
You know what it is? It's going around.
And these people, I just want to add a little something in, that these people quite often work in the HR department. I'm not lying, am I?
Yeah, because they know, because everybody's rang up this morning and gone, I'm feeling really poorly. Yeah. And it's that 24-hour thing.
Berol, isn't it?
To do
it's Berol and HR.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Every sentence starts with E.
And
I know.
And she's highly confidential, but by the time you get back to work after your day's sick, 50% of the organisation knows you were ill.
It's confidential, yeah. And she's also really busy.
Yes. Yeah, I've got 2 meetings today, each of them 15 minutes.
And I'm sitting in. On... Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so tell me, maybe the first sort of question is, what does fear mean to you?
I thought about this. I ended up going down a different avenue because I realised that anxiety is a far larger thing for me than fear is, which was a bit of a wake-up moment for me, knowing that we were doing this. I thought, what am I afraid of? Oh, well, I've got the usual. I've got the fear of heights, and a spider, the vacuum comes out immediately. And then I'm afraid of the vacuum. Then I've got to prop the vacuum up in such a way, well, it might crawl out, it might get out, and then it's back on the wall. And I mean, there's been nights
with two legs.
exactly. Yeah, there are nights I've gone back into the spare room and I've been looking around the floor. Right, is it sealed around the bottom of the Hoover? I mean, it kind of climb out. I mean, if you look inside where all the dirt goes, it's designed so nothing can come back out, right? So it's totally. I don't
Yeah,
think these are
got a filter
rational
on it.
fears, but most of the, I guess, I mean, anxiety, is it mostly negative? Except maybe it's before you go on stage to collect an award, or you're going out for a date or something. That's a different kind. But I would find it easier to go over anxieties and give you more examples of anxieties than I would
Yeah,
fears. So that was an eye opener. Really was an eye opener for me when I
yeah,
realised I didn't really have many of them ones, other than the traditional stuff, really, to talk about, and that actually anxieties, you know, what I'm like in large crowds of people and trying to get me out to the pub, or I think you've only had me out to two Christmas parties, I think, in all the years we worked together. I think it was one in Germany and
yeah.
one in the
They were
UK.
both in
And
April. They were both in April. I just told you there were Christmas parties
yeah.
to get you out.
I mean, I must admit, eventually, when we all went out as our crew in Germany to Cafe November and whatnot,
Yeah.
we had some good nights. Um,
Hmm.
Especially some of the, let's say, quantities you went through. It was a
Yeah,
hoot. Some nights it really was. So what about you in terms of fears and
yeah. As a typical man, I decided I had to put in a box the
yeah,
fear and sort of
yeah,
describe it from within a box. And it's like for me, it's a feeling like a burning sensation with a fast heart rate, like comes on like immediately. So whereas for me, sort of anxiety tends to build through a
mm,
period. We've discussed this morning. It'll be a great episode, by the
mm.
way, about my anxiety about time, and that's an anxiety that builds slowly and simmers till it gets to a height where I have to let it go. But
Is this closer to the point where either you're going to overrun or you're going to miss an appointment, or does it build towards an event, or
yeah, yeah, it's both. I think we talked about it. It's like being late for something and then not
mm,
finishing something on time,
mhm.
and being aware that the rest of the agenda is to come. But fear in it,
does that include limits that you have set rather than an official? This needs to be done by then, but you actually decided that it needed to be done by then. That it was you that set the limit. Does that have just the same effect as someone else setting the limit?
I think it's both. It's like if we've got a 2 hour meeting and I
Mm.
know it's 2 hours, I'm okay. It's fine. I'm relaxed during that 2 hours.
Mm.
But if we're getting towards the end, if it's a project or a meeting or we're doing this recording, if it's getting towards the time when I realize we're not going to fit in the agenda, I'm starting to get anxious about it, and that's building. And then you've noticed that my speech will change,
Mm.
my thought process around time will start to change. Maybe I'll start hurrying
Yeah,
up some
yeah,
subjects.
yeah. It
Uh,
interrupts you a bit, and it influences what you say and how you say it, and
mm,
you seem to, whether consciously or unconsciously, sort of drop hints that you're thinking about time when
yeah.
you're making comments on things, and
Also be aware, and I noticed that on the last couple of recordings that um, even this morning, I'll I'll grab me. I've got a little heater there. I'll grab something, or I'll scratch the back of my neck, or
yeah,
something will happen. I'll
over
do
your
some sort.
shoulder.
Yeah, I'll do
Whistle.
some sort of twitch,
Yeah.
which is
Mm.
actually my brain saying, "Time to crack on, Skipsy." Yep,
Mm.
let's move. You know,
So that means it's kind of built into you, then, isn't it? If that's the
I
case,
think,
if all these things, unconscious actions, just start building on their own, then it's a part of you.
yeah, I realized in the last episode, I think a lot. I say of the word, I think a lot. And what I'm going to
Mm.
say is, I recognize from childhood that certain events have wounded me
Yeah.
in terms of building these little habits, ticks, requirements, and I can go
Totally.
back to. It's a bit deep. It's a bit deep for now because we're sort of. But I've done a lot of searching in the past and realized certain events in my life have caused me to think about time differently. Yeah, and but for maybe that people that are listening, that the good thing about me and Simon sitting here talking is we talk openly about what my problems are, what his problems are, and I don't mind talking about them. I ain't got a problem with it, you know.
No,
Um,
no, we're quite. Even if there's any emotion in to begin with, in the way we need to get them out, especially me, I tend to
mm,
maybe just hold on a smidge too long to a thing, or I'll overthink it.
yeah,
It's always taken how it's meant, and we both know that what we're trying to do is to get rid of the thing, or to get rid of the thought, or to bring it to some sort of understanding that whenever we say anything to each other, it's not to piss the other person off. It's not to insult the other person. It's actually, look, this thing's going round. Can you help me sort it out? Like, does this sound crazy to you? No, no. Well, it's then we'll rationalise it out, and then it goes away. But it goes away properly. It's not just settled for a bit, and the emotion to no, no, no. We actually resolve the thing and go, oh, that was that. We might take away a thought that we need to finish it off, and we'll come back to it next time. But it's to reach. The purpose of speaking is not just to speak about it; it's to sort it out.
yeah.
And
Have you ever seen the Johari Window? It's an exercise that
I was going to ask you about this
yeah.
last week because it's the one thing I remember about Carsten was I took it as a compliment and said when he was telling me how he doesn't normally get on with nerds and IT people and me being the exception, he followed that up with and him being the exception in terms of that very red personality type. And his red jeans, which I brought up with perhaps a little bit too much enthusiasm because I thought it was fun. You've got to have
Yeah.
some guts to wear red jeans in and off. Anyway, he said, you're one of the few people that I've met that can see through all four. And I thought, what does that mean? And at the time, I went and read about it, and I took it as a compliment. But since then, I've forgotten what all four are. There's always at least one of them I forget. So when I'm trying to think about what that meant, I always forget bits of it. So have you got all four? Do you know them?
I'm gonna try and remember them off the top of my head. So there's what I know about myself. Yeah. There's what you know about me that I don't know. There's what we both don't know. So both don't know about me. So I don't know. It could. I'd have to make it up.
I've
Like
got Google. I've got Google right here, haven't I?
yeah, and
God.
the third one I can't remember what the third one is, but it's basically about yourself and perspectives about what people see about you and what you don't know. And the
Oh,
only way to share it is to feed back it. So you tell me, Mark, do you know you've got a fixation with time? And I go, no.
I hate using Wikipedia because it's such a lefty. Ugh. Anyway, but it's got this nice little chart. Right, so
Yeah.
you've got this little grid. So
Will you put up on the screen if at the end of the broadcast? Will you be able to share it so they can see? Not now, but later.
oh yeah, I'll overlay it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll overlay it on it. So you've got the arena in the top left, where it's known to self, known to others. Blind spot is not known to self, but known to others.
Yeah.
Then you've got the facade, which is known to yourself, but not known to others. And then you've got not known to self and not known to others is the unknown.
That's it.
So it's kind of who you think you are, who they think you are, how you think you're coming across, but they know different. And the stuff that is entirely subconscious to you that no one else has ever seen and you don't know it's there, I guess is a more of a loose way of putting it. But it was, you can see all four now. That sounds like a compliment. I think that's a
Yeah.
compliment. I'm quite a reflective person, but
What they say about the Johari window is to try and get as much. I need to get as much from you as I can and from other people because that's the only way I learn forward is by understanding the bits that I can't see about myself. Yeah. So going back to time, we've had a discussion this morning about I'll even call it an issue with time. It's not a problem. I don't mind using the word issue. I've got an issue, and just so people are aware, Simon has given me his perspective on how I'm dealing with time and maybe how I should relax outside of it. So, yeah, and it's not necessarily a fear, but it does create a large level of anxiety when I'm sort of dealing with time, because I think we got a bit deep this morning. But as I said to you, I'm going to be dead soon, and I'm trying to cram in as much as possible.
But to be fair, it's a fair point, because as much as many of us might not admit, every birthday that goes by,
Yeah,
that little voice gets louder, and you're like, "Well,
yeah.
I haven't done." I mean, do you know how many 18-year-olds do you know that have a bucket list,
Oh, good lord.
or a
Yeah.
bucket list for the right reason, for the same reason rather? Like, I've got a bucket list because it's like I want to smash this out, and I just want to know that I could have done X. Like you mentioned the piano, and I've been thinking about that for years, because that's what my mum used to do. She used to play the piano and she did a bunch of stuff back in the day, and I thought, "Ooh, I'd love to have a proper go at playing the drums and playing the piano, and I want to go and visit this place and do that place." And it doesn't feel urgent because time feels infinite when you're younger. Like you don't think death doesn't come into it. You feel like, actually, oh, a year, that's ages. Can you remember the school holidays? The six weeks. You have to find stuff to do because it'd just start a drag by the end. Now 6 weeks, I'm like, there's 2 Christmases a year, man. What's going on? Where did the year go? Hasn't it been Christmas? What? Mind you, there's Easter eggs in the shop already. What the hell's that about?
Yeah. How do you eat your cream egg?
Bit of tongue, obviously.
When we talk about that, because do you fear death?
I can distinctly remember in my teens lying awake one night and having this massive wave of dread that, do you know, time is actually limited, and it hit me like a brick.
Yeah.
These days, I look at it like a deadline, because I'm like, well, being dead's like being asleep.
Yeah.
You're not conscious. Do you know what I mean? Like, what happened to you before you were born? It's just a point of where you don't exist. So you've got until then. It's a weird perception. I was more afraid of it when I was younger than I am now. Now I seem to have this other perspective of it. I don't know whether it's because I'm more occupied with what I want to squeeze in.
I remember having this conversation with a coach. He was sort of a bit of a therapist as well, and I said to him, I said, I don't want to die, and he basically said to me, "You are going to get used to it and plan for it." I was like, okay.
You know, I asked myself this question. It was after watching Lucy, this movie about someone who unlocks all of our, which the science is complete nonsense, because you use 100% of your brain. You're just only ever using around 15% of it at any one time. It's not that we have locked portions of it. It's nonsense science. But there was a piece at the start about this scientist that she gets in touch with, who asked a question, or rather a finding about life. And this is seen in jellyfish, then in humans, right? So DNA has one way of continuing, because it's all about passing on information generation to generation. So it's all about maintaining information. And there's amount of information, memories, genetic memory, like babies will grab your finger, because we used to live in trees. So it was about, grabbing on. And it's all subliminal. Yeah, it's all in the back. Yeah, this is DNA memory, right? So, and there are 2 solutions in the animal world for this. One is immortality, and the other is procreation, and the 2 never cross. And I asked myself a question. I don't know why it popped into my head over the last week, because I haven't seen the movie in ages. And what would you prefer, right, if you had the choice? Immortality, but you couldn't have kids, or being mortal and having a family, so passing on your DNA and your knowledge and your understanding of the world to a new person who carries some of your DNA forward, so therefore you get to exist, or immortality, where you get to see at some point in the future flying cars. And well, it means you're going to have to work for the rest of your life as well, because obviously the government, by the time you get to 240, is like, we're still paying this guy's pension. What's that about?
It's a final salary scheme as well.
So you'd have to prepare for it. So financials aside, if you were given the option before you had any family, so back in the day, before you had any kids, some wizard or something turned up and went, right, you can have one or the other. You can be fertile and you can have whatever kids you want and be able to afford them, let's say. Or you can be immortal, but you can never have children. Never. You can adopt them, but you can never have kids of your own.
I mean, the question is a fascinating one, and my initial gut reaction was, I have to go family.
You see, because I do want a little me running around, you know, and I want to. It's like a legacy in some respects, but then I thought, ooh, I'd love to get to a point where we're actually in space and doing, you know, I'm a full-on nerd, so I'm just thinking about all this stuff I'm going to miss, and how I sometimes feel like I'm born in slightly the wrong period. So it's a hard question. I said, well, you could adopt kids, couldn't you? And you can teach them your teachings and your understandings of the world. And say, yeah, but it's not me, though, is it? That's not a piece of me in the genetic sense. So my line dies off. And for some reason, in my brain, that's very important to me, that I pass a piece of me on and a piece of me continues to exist. It's a very strong feeling in me.
It's another tough question, and it's quite morbid at the moment, about death. Would you rather have a long, drawn-out death of, let's say, something like cancer, or would you rather go overnight? And that brings into question things like the ability to say goodbye.
I sometimes, so you know, my cat passed away recently. I had to take him to the vet, and it was time, right?
Yeah.
And I pondered on sometimes thinking that it might be simpler for me if I came home one day and it had happened, rather than me taking him and, you know, making the decision for him. And it introduced a whole bunch of fears. And yes, he's a cat, but he became like, he was like a best mate. And I had a fear of not being able to say goodbye to him, or I was anxious about taking him. Am I making the right choice? I was afraid of leaving it too long and giving him a horrible, drawn out, like maybe his kidneys failed or what have you, because that's ultimately what happens with age. Stuff just starts breaking and breaking down. Now, that's not fair. He's been great with me. He even came to understand me, so, you know, when I was in certain states of mind, he would appear and he would sort me out. He was a very perceptive cat. And I started having all these fears, loads of fears about how long should I wait, and am I doing the right thing? And like I say, as simple as, I would hate to get back, or maybe it's best. Then he's gone on his own terms, yeah. But then you don't know how he went and whether he was in pain when it happened, and then I wouldn't get to say goodbye to him. I know he doesn't understand English. He knows what his name is, and I taught him a couple of words like food. He knows what the word food means, or pouch means, right? So if I said that word, he'd get up and go to his bowl, right, and sit and wait. So I taught him a few things like that. But it's not like he can understand when when I'd made the appointment and I was just stood at the window looking out at the trees with him and showing him the birds, and just, you know, I just told him I loved him there and then, and I thought, you know, I don't think it's something I've ever said. It's something I find hard to say. But you know, I felt afraid that I'd never said it. Now, am I am I going to totally flip out if I don't express how I feel? And then he's gone. So I started making lists of things. I need to make sure that, we spend time doing it, we spend time doing that. And then it led me to think about myself as well. What I prefer? Do I want to know that I've got time to say me goodbyes and tell people what they've meant to us, or would I prefer a bang? I don't even know it's coming. Just don't get up the next day. Like
I pondered it because if I was to, we get into where we come from, us both being Geordie men of a certain era, and
pit families and that. Yeah.
Families and how we don't talk about our emotions. So, the word, I love you is something we all find pretty difficult to use. And what I'm getting at is that if you are showing daily gratification for somebody or something that you're with, if you're showing that daily gratification and you're saying, I love you and I really enjoy spending time with you, if that end came suddenly, your conscience would be pretty clear. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and that's what I think a lot of us are missing out is enjoying the journey and saying what we feel along the journey so that we don't have those regrets at the end.
And you don't have those fears either. Like, you should never go to bed on an argument. You should never leave the house in an argument. Maybe either you could get hit by a bus when you step out the door, So then
with my driving, definitely.
Yeah. Yes. Stay away from the general Chester area, just to be sure. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know. You probably want to say goodbye to your loved ones, and actually, Mark's just taking that option away by driving over you.
So, knowing that on the day of your test, you bumped over a curb, and just on the way out of the depot.
Instant failure in 30 seconds.
Aye.
Yeah, but if we could sort of maybe just flip on it a little bit, what do you have a positive experience of fear, or when you've overcome something? I mean, I've got one, but I'm more interested in yours.
I sometimes try and do these things simply to kind of convince myself that not all fears are hard to get rid of. So it was like, I remember when I was young, my two brothers have always been louder and much more outgoing and sometimes annoyingly so growing up. And they were on all the roller coasters, they were, all of that stuff. And do you remember Metroland?
Flipping, yes. Come on, Mike. I used to take my 3 kids there all the time.
Oh, right. So I was determined I'm going to go on a coaster.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to... Because it's, you know me in control, right? That I just like to know... So I just thought, this is letting go of something. And, but what if... And, and you hear of these accidents and I just thought, look, I can start small, right? I can start small. Pirate ship. Metroland roller coaster. Let's do it. So I did. Pirate ship. Loved it. Although it was, when it goes up at 90 degrees like that, I'm crapping myself, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm like, but I'm sat with, I can't remember who I was with at the time. And I was like, it ended up just being a bit of a laugh. And I started to understand the whole fear, adrenaline, kind of how fear can actually increase your excitement and enjoyment of a thing. So then I went on the coaster because I had me pass, so I could go on. So I go on everything. I had my little band on my wrist, so I go on everything. So I went on the back and on the front, because at the back you can really just suddenly feel the G's when you get pulled. And of course, the front is the front, right? You see everything coming. You go right over the edge. Since then, though, I went on one of those. Was it in Germany when I was over there? At one of the parks, those ones that they go over and then they just hang you for a moment before letting go, but then they dip in a bit, so they don't just go straight down. They actually dip in a bit, so it looks like you're falling forward, and then they go through the mouth of some beast or whatever. Yes, that was that one. It was the Kraken, and then it shoots water at you, right? Now, ultimate challenge. I was with Nancy, if I remember right. I was in Germany. I went right. That's the ultimate test, right? Of will I get a buzz out of this, or will I not forgive myself for going on it? And admittedly, I was walking funny when I got off because of because of the buzz. I was like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, what's going on here?" And there was a massive rush. But I think it helped to have that experience shared.
Yeah.
She was gung-ho, right? She was like, "We're going on this, and we're stood in the queue." The queue makes it so much worse. The build-up and watching people get on, and we went on that one. Those ones that launch you. It was called Desert Run or something, right? It had these traffic lights at the start, right? And it just goes red, red, green. And they've got pads. They've got pads there, and I thought they're there for a reason, right? And I stood and watched one go, and I was like, we're not getting on that, are we? I was stood in the queue, I thought, we're not getting on that. And it was famous in the park for going from 0 to, was it 60 kilometres an hour in such and such fractions of a, like in...
Before you could even poo yourself.
Yeah, you were literally being fired out the gate. And I said, we're going on that. Yeah. Sometimes I need someone to just say, no, we're going. We're going on it. We're going. I was like, right. So at those key moments, I learned the connection between fear isn't always a horrific thing. That I can understand these adrenaline junkies.
Yeah,
I understand that they actually need the fear, and when they get used to jumping off that certain point, they need to find a higher one. They need to find another building, a building they haven't done, a mountain they haven't done, something they haven't climbed yet. Because your brain eventually, you'll wear that groove and go, right, well, now I don't get a buzz anymore. I need a new groove to wear in. So
I think I built a tolerance to fear of heights, and it might come from because as kids, my dad was a roofer for the council, and you always sort of concerned as a child that he's up these roofs and he might fall off. So I think I built up this intolerance to heights over time, and I remember occasion with the kids in Conway where I flipped out because they were too close to the edge, and then what happened? I did a bit of education over the last few years where we did a bit of NLP, and sort of visualizing beating those fears, and I ended up doing some rock climbing with one of the companies. I did some rock climbing a couple of years ago, and the easiest way to get over the fear was I knew there was a guy there with a safety rope. Mm-hmm. Therefore, the probability of me falling was close to zero, and so it was just a case of just getting up there and getting to the top.
Does that help you? So if you go close to an edge and there is no rope, do you still have the fear?
I think it's still there, but it's not like it used to be. And the kids laugh at me still and say you're afraid of heights, and I sort of say now, well, am I? Or have I worked through that fear because I've actually challenged myself? As you said, you can go from a little ride to the next one, and it's just these little increment steps of challenging yourself. So almost when you get on that final roller coaster, you're like, oh, bit boring this now, isn't it?
Yeah, and what was great, I had something to talk about.
Yeah.
And whereas previously, I was the one that wasn't involved in that conversation, and so you then had that part of the rush that you said, this bit, and did you feel this when this happened? Oh, my stomach went straight into me gobbing.
Whether it's, I think excitement and fear are very closely related in terms of emotional sense. I'm no expert, but actually that's why we love them so much. These theme parks that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Because they give us fear and exhilaration pretty close together.
So you could say that depending on circumstance, you may interpret that feeling of fear as one or the other, right? That actually context can change whether you choose to interpret that tingly dread that you get as looking forward to a thing. So anticipation, an excited anticipation versus a negative kind of fearful anticipation of something that maybe the chemical mix is very similar, and the rest of it's down to your own interpretation of what what that is. I've
Yeah, I
found
like.
sometimes if I'm really scared of something, I get miffed with it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, good.
I just get cheesed off with myself, or I change that into some other emotion and just go, do you know what? I'm sick of feeling like that. Right, we're doing this. Get it
Yeah.
done, and get out of there. And then you go, all right, well that
Well,
sort of worked. So I try to combat it with
I
another
know,
one.
I know we'll be in and out of bits of NLP, but that's one of the bits of NLP that's core, is that jumping out of one emotion that is upsetting you and just jumping into another one, deliberately visualizing a different emotion and jumping into it and enjoying it. So taking
Mm.
yourself away from fear and finding your beach or your special place and jumping into it and setting yourself down, you know, and
Yeah,
that's,
I've found a situation I've been scared to approach. I just get cheesed off
yeah,
instead. You know, like get treat the fear as a person and just get cheesed off with it. Go, here, man,
love it. Give it a
let's.
name. Give it a name. Give your
I
fear a
do.
name.
This is
Bob.
sometimes what I do to deal with things. Is I start to see the thing in the third person
Yeah,
and treat it as not me, and then I attack it in some way, or I put something else on it, or put something else around it, or frame it some other way. Usually, like I say, if I'll just get miffed that I'm sick of this. Am I going? Am I not? Look, we're just doing it. I'm going on that bloody
yeah,
ride. That's it.
yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it. And I get annoyed with my own hesitation, and the fear kind of goes, oh, what just happened there? What just happened?
Yeah.
What just happened? What I bet you were. Shut up.
Here's a,
I'm off.
here's an interesting concept that I thought about. So, you know, as kids, always we were growing up, and they used to say, you know, if you die in your sleep, you actually die in real life.
Not in your dreams.
I,
Leave it in your dream.
uh, I mean, okay, so who actually proved that concept?
There's no way to know because they'd be deed.
Exactly.
Right. Well, mind
Yeah.
you, I can still remember in the schoolyard someone say, you know, you can't get pregnant the first time you have sex.
Yeah.
Like, that, that's kids' logic for you. Oh, that happens, and you just believe it.
I
Oh
know.
yeah, it's totally true.
I do. I don't know about you, but I do regularly have very vivid dreams whereby maybe you're driving the car and you come into a crash and you suddenly wake
Oh
yourself up, flipping all the
yeah,
time.
yeah. I remember being. I don't know what the hell I was dreaming about, but I got shot in the stomach and I woke up with a
Yeah.
start. I could feel
Yeah.
a bit right there. I was like, ooh, actually, I can still feel that sensation from my
Yeah.
dream. Like my brain really reacted to because it was such a vivid dream. My brain actually kind of went, oh, what? Something
It's,
happened
it,
there. Something happened there.
it was it was actually a IBS from the curry from the night before.
Yeah, well, I used to love me Vindaloos back in the day. I've
Yeah.
switched to grass these days, but
Vindaloo to the poo. Yeah.
Vindaloo, yeah, the only food that burns you at both ends, right?
Or three times if you're unlucky.
You know why that is? Because you've got taste buds in your ass,
Yeah.
so your body knows and can analyze the content of you. It's true. You've actually got some taste buds in your ring. That's why it burns on its way out. You know, they used to spit it up and
I
listen
just
for it.
there's so many directions we could go with this, but I think we're
No,
doing.
it's obviously taste buds you can't use, but your brain can use them. But this is why it burns because the capsaicin bonds to your taste buds at both ends.
This is where we could keep this podcast going for the next 10 years of the stuff I learn off you.
Yeah, I love me facts. I like knowing
Yeah.
how everything works.
Do you want to do a quick fire? Are you all right with that, or how do you want to
We
do it? Or
didn't we didn't do a bit of anxiety.
I sort of
No,
I sort of thought we were sort of in and out of it. I don't know. What?
maybe
Tell me a bit about
I was
anxiety.
worried that
Go on.
we didn't do a specific bit, but I think you're right. We probably showed how the two things merged together.
Yeah.
I'm just anxious that we haven't covered it.
Hey, you
Hey,
you're
hey,
anxious that we hadn't had the opportunity for you to cover that joke.
hey. I don't know what
That's
that
it.
There's going to be many more of them.
Oh,
Strap
no.
in, strap in.
Are you ready?
So yeah. Now these answers may or may not be true, and are given just to get through the questions, right?
You're
So
putting you're
I
doing well.
can't I can't put my hand up to the accuracy of my answers, right? I
Yeah,
won't be held
it's almost like
responsible.
it's almost like our disclaimer at the beginning of a podcast to say, we're no experts in these subjects. We just have an opinion, and if you don't like it, well, tough, you know. And but you
Yeah.
know, that's Simon making his disclaimer to his potential answer.
It
But
frees me
yeah,
to stop obsessing about how that might sound.
now if I
Or
said to
it's,
you,
or it's an attempt. It's
yeah,
my attempt to disconnect myself from a massive
here's
thought process.
here's a way of thinking about these. So if
Mhm.
I said to you, I think the best question is the last one, do you start fixating already on the last one rather than the first one?
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I've
So I think
actually.
a bit like the Phil Neville and Andy Burnham one last week. Um,
Mm.
but I don't think I prompted you in terms of. I think the last one's the best one for you.
No, it kind of locks in some intrigue because I'm wondering why you think it's the best one, and I'm interested to know what that is and what it means. So yeah, it's probably the best way to distract.
Right. Let's and I won't I won't do what I did last week and move on extremely quickly. But I'm because you've said to me that you're going to give an immediate answer and it doesn't mean anything, then we'll start. So number one, scary film or dark room? What was your biggest fear?
Oh, dark room
Dark room. Good.
was, but
Yeah. Here's one. Here's an interesting one. Biggest fear: death by fire or death by water?
Christ, fire has to be. It's horrific when you
Yeah,
understand.
I thought the same. I got that in my head that you get this tranquility if you were that in
Oh
water.
yeah, yeah. When your brain runs out of oxygen, you actually go into this. Uh, there's a word for it, but you go into a bit of
Yeah.
a
State.
pleasurable state.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're asphyxiated. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, being humiliated or in a panic state.
Or being humiliated because I've had way too much of that
Yeah.
in my life, way too much. But
You go.
I can deal with a panic state.
Here's one. I think I know the answer to this one. Bee or spider?
Oh, which is the worst? Spider.
Yeah. Spider. Yeah. Yeah.
Bees are fluffy.
Heights. Heights or deep sea?
Oh, oh, I hate it when I can't see the bottom. Deep sea.
Deep sea. Yeah. Yeah. Fear of failure or fear of achieving?
That's that's very good.
Isn't it?
That is very good. Let's say fear of failure, because
Fear of failure. Yeah.
you know what we're like with success.
We're both like that. Yeah.
Often I don't notice them. I
Yeah.
don't notice the successes, but I will. Yeah.
Successes
No,
is, and then our next word after success is next.
yeah, but it always is. It always was.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Are you
Next.
ready? Tough one. Cancer or heart attack?
Jesus. Well, that's what we were saying before about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
trying to- That's. I don't know if I can. Oh, I'll. Oh, cancer, I guess. I'll have to go down because I mean the pain
Yeah,
is elongated, but the. Yeah, that's
yeah,
deep. That's
yeah.
deep.
Um, sorry, makes me think of a very warped joke about yeah, cancer and Alzheimer's, but I'll save it for another day.
Yeah.
Having fear of having too many options or no options.
Too many. Because
Yeah,
that's how my brain works. When I've got too many, Jesus. If I've got no options, right, well then, move on.
yeah.
Right?
Fear of public speaking or public singing.
Singing.
Singing, yeah, that would be mine.
Speaking, I got used to. We
Yeah,
spoke about that. At public speaking, if you know your subject really well, it's surprising how the confidence just appears to speak in front of people. But singing
yeah,
involves it. It's a different talent entirely. It's not just the engaging people. It's the singing's a talent on its own, right? So, Christ.
yeah. And
Singing.
what this is supposed to be my pièce de resistance, but I could be way off mark here. So the fear of drinking 10 pints or going to a rave?
Well, I've done both. So 10 pints, actually, because
Yeah.
by the end of it, you've got no control out. The rave, I can leave.
Yeah. I would say I wouldn't know what to do after the first hour if I've had 10 pints, so I'd be a bit bored.
See, it's the lack of control. It's one reason why I don't drink.
Yeah.
Uh, Aside from it being a depressant, so it's only going to aggravate the stuff that's already going on in my head.
Yeah.
Although I've had some fun times, but
I have to say,
the control
versus
elements.
I delivered the questions a little bit differently this week, but I thought you did really well on them this week. Yeah.
Yeah, well, those were quite deep,
Thought
quite
provoking, weren't they? Yeah.
really, yeah.
Yeah, quite deep. And it gets if people are listening, it gets you sort of thinking about your own context in those sort of 10 questions, doesn't
Doesn't
it?
it reveal stuff about yourself? I mean, what about you? What about you? What's your answers?
Well,
'Cause I think it says there's stuff in amongst there that I've probably revealed about myself that when I watch this back during the edit, I might have some other realizations once I've
well,
seen.
I've just realised I've pressed the back of my neck, so I'm clearly uncomfortable. So, and and the first one, because my wife and daughter laugh at me. I don't watch scary movies. I just don't
I
watch them.
I hate
And
them for the same reason I don't watch The Office, in that being
yeah,
uncomfortable isn't entertaining for me.
yeah,
So uncomfortable humor, that's cringy humor, I don't find that funny. I have too much empathy, so I feel for the person, which makes me uncomfortable. So I cannot find it funny. Same with horror, I can't find it entertaining.
I
And that, and
think
that take holes in it.
yeah, I was the same with you on the water versus fire. Humiliation, I'm actually all right with because I don't I humiliate myself quite a bit, so in fun gestures, so I've sort of got used to it. So I
Well,
would hate
given
I would
some of
hate
the
to be
meetings we've been in, I can believe that.
yeah. I just if you can humiliate yourself, then you're not really
Yeah.
too bothered when people try to humiliate you. So
Oh,
um,
so you mean like if someone's making fun of a thing, if you own that thing, then it
yeah,
loses
yeah, you're
its
right. I'm an idiot.
I hate the phrase. It loses its power, but it loses its ability to affect you, right? If you
Yeah.
then,
And so
yeah,
panic is, BO spider. Yeah, I would say I'm more afraid of spiders. Uh, More afraid of deep sea because I did some diving and actually was quite fearful when I was in the water, even though I,
really,
I thought I was going to enjoy it. And the thing that really got me was I was using my air too much, which showed I was really, really sort of afraid or in a panic state. So I was unfortunately my diving partner had to come up earlier than me because I was using up my oxygen. Um, failure or achieving, definitely failure. Um, Cancer or heart attack, I'd say heart attack. Uh, no options. And again, I was the same as you with singing. And then 10 pints of rave. I think at the time of my life now, I would probably be exactly like you. I don't think I could stomach, never mind 2 pints, never mind 10. So yeah, it's about you're right. It's about a control thing. Now what I know about control, I don't want to lose that control. And I know what alcohol does. So yeah, but yeah,
and people forget that it's a drug,
yeah.
right?
It should have a skull and crossbones on it, shouldn't it?
Yeah, and it's surprising how many people say drinking drugs. It's the same.
Yeah.
Drinking a drug, so
And,
is caffeine, incidentally.
and two Geordies, we know where we should be on a Friday night, shouldn't we? And we don't go there.
Down the big market.
Oh, it's funny.
Never
Just
drank down there.
my
Never.
my daughter, as you intimated, I'm in Cheshire. I live in Cheshire. My daughter just left to go up there. She's in the big market tonight. So
Is she?
yeah, yeah.
Oof.
Her and her fiance have just left to go up there and spend the
She's
weekend
going
in
to come back
Newcastle.
with a story, isn't she? She's going to have at least one story.
Yeah,
Maybe
she's
every
only
time
got
I
one. She's only got one priority, Simon. What's the priority for me? To bring back some stotties.
Yes. Yes, everything else is fine as long as you bring the stotties back.
That's
You
it.
could have stabbed someone in the head. Have you got the stotties though?
Yeah, yeah. I don't care if they're covered in blood. That'll go well with the peas, pudding, and ham.
Well, they're wrapped in plastic anyway, right? They're
Yeah.
wrapped in plastic. It's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. They're still good. They're still good. Aye.
What have we got coming up then? What do you think next week?
I'm looking forward to choosing your company wisely.
Oh,
This
that's a
has
good one.
been this has been massive for me my entire life for various reasons.
Yeah.
But when you told me specifically you wanted to cover the effect that your company has on you, as in the things you pick up from them, the habits you pick up from them, the views you pick up from them, it put words to some of the thoughts I was having about it. And I was like, yes, yes, yes. So it's not just about, having mates and what kind of mates you have and what kind of things, what kind of company you have and what you can and can't talk about and all that. No, it's the effect that they leave on you. Because without doubt, there's people I don't see anymore that have left some kind of mark on how I view life, how I view things. People I respect on the news even, I'd be more willing to adopt a view that they've had, even though I research everything, but I'll be more inclined to go, rather than there's someone on there, she's maximum left field, right? Maximum. Any word that comes out of her mouth. Now, she could be talking about the perfect pastry recipe. And I might even agree that that's the right way to do it, but because she said it, nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Mind you, that there's a handful of them on there, actually. There's a couple of the blokes that do me head in. But there are going to be news reporters and even organisations that you don't think of it in as choosing your company, but you are. If you're going to sit and watch 5 hours of news, even if you're leaving it on the background, if you're choosing BBC or you're choosing Talk TV or Sky, you're welcoming them into your house, offering you views that are going to tilt you one way or another, which is why I think quite often tabloids and the mass media are a little bit irresponsible sometimes in saying, well, it was just an opinion. Yeah, but some people treat your opinions as fact. Some people trust you and will adopt it, or will not hear that it was an opinion and will assume what you were saying is just true. Oh, did you hear? No. We don't know yet. It was either this or this. Oh, but he said.
Yeah.
And we're not listening. So it can leave a mark. It can change the direction you go in. It can change the way you interact. It can change who you end up being friends with. All of that. A good example is Sarah, who's become like family for me. It's like I was saying earlier, it's like speaking with a sister. It really is. And she plans all of her meals out, and we both love mince and dumplings, but she calls it M&Ds. I call it M&Ds. It's like a shorthand that you build over time when you respect someone, you love someone, and you've built a connection with them that you enjoy. You start adopting those things. But I thought it was a fun way of talking about it. And it's like having that shorthand, but you enjoy having a shorthand with someone because then it gives you a connection with them you don't have with other people and adds value to that connection, I think. So I'm looking forward to it. Is there any other one that you're looking forward to? Because we created I think it's a really good
I mean,
list.
I've been working with a client this week, and we've gone into working on something called ETC, which is emotion, truth, and choice. And I really, something I'm really keen to get into.
I've never heard. I've never heard
It's
that.
where you basically, we use in our language, you use a lot of emotions like everything's shit. Well, okay, that's a generalization. So you can't say everything is shit because that's just an emotion or an opinion. So what
Like
is
an
the
outcome.
truth? Yeah, what's the truth? Well, the truth is I'm upset at the price of fuel. Oh, okay, right. So what's the choice? So you work through, and you can sort of, where are we moving too much into our emotional side and not trying to sort of work as we would probably do in the analytical side of the truth? Well, what is the truth? Well, the truth is, Harry killed 24 people, but he didn't boast about it, and he didn't put too much emotion in it. There's the truth in that, and then there's the bit that's been created as an emotion or an opinion about that. So that's
Off
one
the
of
back of the ethics of saying it in the first place. So, regardless of how he said it, or
yeah
in what context, or where it is, it feeds back then onto the emotion because of what it means to say it at all.
yeah.
In that it's a bit uncouth to say it, and that
The one I like it.
it comes with an effect.
Yeah, the one I really like is how often as we grow up, or you heard your parents or your grandparents say to each other, "You make me so angry."
Oh yeah,
No, no, you made yourself angry.
you allowed yourself
Correct.
to become angry.
Yeah, you had a
I,
choice.
yeah. I don't see anger as a real emotion. It's an effect of something that you're ignoring, and your body's going. There's something you're ignoring, and eventually you go, yeah, and you
Yeah,
explode because there's something you've left unresolved. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's the next conversation you had with Andy Burnham that made you angry.
Brilliant.
Okay, all good.
You mention his name, it's always going to be followed with Bellend. Always. It's almost a compulsion.
Yeah.
The two must exist, or coexist side by side in reality. And if I could have that happen in the media and out there in real life, that whenever anyone hears that name, it's also associated with the word Bellend. That would be
See,
like,
that's where I'm going to take you through an ETC model, and we're going to get to the truth.
interesting.
Yeah.
It'd be good to pick out a couple of examples of that, actually,
Yeah.
and work that through, because it's almost, it's like a stepping down method. You're wound up about a thing. Well, this is how we step you down and
Yeah.
de-escalate from that emotional state to making you realise, oh, right,
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't need to get like that about
We
that, did
start
I?
singing the Frozen song. Let it go.
Don't. Do you know how long it takes me to get rid of earworms
Yeah.
once they're in there? There's always a song or something playing, and I'm dancing. I don't know what my neighbour thinks. I'm sometimes dancing for no reason. Don't even realise I'm dancing in the kitchen because I'm playing something.
Yeah.
Sometimes the Prodigy. That sometimes happens. Or some daft tune off an advert, which annoys me even more because it means an advert's got in, and I hate adverts. There's something's right. So, should we choosing your company wisely for next time?
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm excited to do it. I do want to do the 4,000 weeks at some point because I think that's quite pertinent, given the death chat we've had
Yeah.
about ambitions and whatnot. And what would you tell your younger self?
Ooh,
I
like
have this. I have this conversation with myself a couple of times or so a year, and just a moment happens, and I go, "If I could go back in time, would you change that?"
Yeah, don't meet Mary at the back of the bike shed.
Yeah, but then you think, what did you learn from that
Yeah.
that you've used since? So if you undo that, you undo all of those other things that you took from it. So I've looked at some very uncomfortable autistic moments that I've had in my life, knowing now that that's what they were. And I've chastised myself for them. Why did I say that? Why did I do that? And I look back at them very differently since I was diagnosed. I'm not as harsh as on myself as I was.
Be kind to yourself, Simon.
Well, I have a much different view, and I've got this other toolkit now that I can go back and look at those things, and I don't have as many of those. Do you know those moments in the shower when,
No.
for no apparent reason, a memory pops in, and you have to have a physical reaction to it? You just go la la la, and the memory pops in, you go, you know those? You go, wah,
Yeah.
ooh. You know those memories, like, why did that happen? And I thought, would I go back and change this? Because it was very uncomfortable. I thought, do you know what though? Because of that, I realised that I react like this. And now I have this realisation of a thing that it will not happen again. And I can actually understand why I did it. And I've stopped it from and when I look back, actually, this happened a few times and I've never really picked up on it. Now I have. So if I went back and undid the last one, I now wouldn't be in the better position that I am. And then when I was met with a very similar situation, since then, I went, that's happening, and I could feel my head doing it. That's happening, and then I veered off, and I'm better for it. So it sounds great to go back and say, well, I would go back and kill baby Hitler, or I'd go back and I'd stop myself going into that club, and but I say, yeah, but what have you learned from that? Like, what did life give you from that experience? Yeah, it was horrific. Sometimes the best lessons are learned in some really horrible circumstances or uncomfortable circumstances, but what did you take from it? And if you really look back at all of the other things that happened after that, how many of them would you undo or make worse? Or how many things would you have not have done, been able to do after that if you removed that experience from your life? So unpicking anything from your past is, you shouldn't really dwell on it anyway, but unpicking anything has all these other consequences. So if you shouldn't really spend, other than acknowledging a thing and maybe trying to take something out positive out of it and say, well, what tool did I get out of that? You shouldn't really spend much time at all in your past. Bearing in mind, it's pretty much all I used to do. It was dwell and try to fix, in inverted commas, fix myself prior to 2020. But since then, I've stopped fixing myself. Not only that, I've let go of some of the fixes I put in place, thinking,
what have you done? What have you done?
I've let go of some of the reins.
Did you start singing there?
No. No. Don't get me on that, because if I hear a sentence that sounds like song lyrics, that song sticks in my head for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
No, but you know. So perhaps, saying that, we've got that to cover in regrets and whatnot later on, haven't we? But
plenty of time.
Plenty of time. So choosing your company wisely next time,
should
be pretty cool, I think. So yeah, we'll wrap it up. So thanks for listening. We'll catch you guys next time. Cheers.